within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and members of the Mack Pack. Today is July 27th, 2014, and we have an amazing show in store for you. I am Mack Worley, and this is On the Move. I really appreciate you all joining me today. This is the show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights, so strap in. We have a really interesting show in store for you today. Today around 5:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be joined once again by a very special guest, Libertarian candidate Stephen Nielson. He's running for state representative in the Washington State District 2, Position 2, for that state representative. So we've had Stephen on the show in the past, and I'm really excited to have him back on again. So you're not going to want to miss that interview. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Today, later into the other segments of the show, like, for example, in the Mack attack, we're going to be talking about Israel's involvement in Gaza, where I stand on that, and the shadow war that Russia is conducting in Ukraine. If we have time, we're going to try to also get to the federal court ruling in the District of Columbia, and it made a decision on the right to bear arms in our nation's capital. So I'm very excited to get to all this stuff. We're also going to be talking about whatever you all would like to talk about. Anything is on the table. So whatever comes our way, feel free to call in with your own topics that you would like to discuss. We'll be taking your listener calls and reading your emails. So if you want to join the conversation today, the Mack Pack phone lines are open. Give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. Don't forget to check us out here at blogtalkradio.com/onthemoveshow. You can follow us on here so you can catch all of our shows. We also have a website, onthemoveshow.com. We got a bunch of original content on there. You can like us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. We got new videos that come out weekly on that. And, of course, you can always follow us on Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And anyway, you know, we've had a pretty busy week. It seems like every week is pretty busy here at the show. But, you know, we released another video this week. It was another one in the Man on the Street series that we've been doing, and we're going to continue to do more like this. We really are having a good time with these kind of things. So, you know, I go out, and a good friend of mine, Leo, he's helping me. He's been helping with the camera work and everything. He's a really good cameraman. And anyway, we go out and we interview people, and these last few videos we have had, it's been a series of basically a mix of like pop culture with current event stuff in there for trivia. So I ask people something pop culture related, and then I ask them something current event related, and see what they are actually paying attention to, who knows what, and what is actually on the minds of people down in Portland. So anyway, the next video that I have here that we released, it's again, these are for the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. I've been putting them on their show, and they've been gracious enough to allow my videos to go on their show as well. So, again, that's JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com. Make sure you check out their podcast. It's a really amazing show. Johnny is a really cool guy, and libertarian, liberty-oriented, liberty-minded. So I think you all will really like his program. And it's very entertaining. It's like the libertarian Howard Stern. So anyway, this next video here is the one I have sent to them, and this one I went out and I asked people in Portland, what is twerking and what does the acronym NSA stand for? And we got some really interesting responses. Here it is. Sorry, it's loading right now. It's taking a minute. Of course.
Welcome to On the Move.
There we go. What is twerking?
Like making your butt bounce up and down. It's like shaking your butt a lot.
Like Miley Cyrus.
Where you bounce your butt up and down.
Moving your butt. It's like moving your hips and your butt back and forth.
I believe you can see that Miley Cyrus doing that at the Grammys. Yeah, pretty graphic.
Shaking your ass, obviously. Like, we're going to go whoop, 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 kind of bouncing like that.
With muscle control. You got to have the right muscles down there
it's actually
and
a lot
the right
harder
amount
than it
of
looks.
weight.
First of all, it's a lifestyle.
I think also second, it's just moving like the buttocks very rapidly to music, or not music at all.
Shaking your butt.
Twerking. Twerking is doing all sorts of nice body movements back and forth.
Twerking? Like fixing up your street bike, stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah. You putting a new chain on it, things like that?
Yeah.
When you jiggle your enough that it like makes waves, and you can do it on a person or on a building. I heard that like in Salem, some people twerked against the police in riot. So
is that a new way to protest?
I think so.
You think it's effective?
I support twerking against the police.
What does the acronym NSA stand for?
I don't know. NSA? I have no idea. NSA. Oh, I should know this. National something or other. I don't know.
NSA. National Security Administration?
I don't know.
NSA, National Security Agency.
National
Aircraft.
No.
Services.
No, honey. It's the astronaut people. Something astronaut. Something. I don't know.
National Space Agency. Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh,
there
yes.
you go.
Space people. We like.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes me sound like an idiot. I have no idea. What is it?
National Security Agency.
National Security Administration.
NSA. Ooh, National Security Association?
National Security Alliance.
Wait, no, not NSA. That's NRA.
Yeah.
I don't know.
NSA. I know. I hear this all the time, but I can't remember what it stands for.
Like National Safety something.
Association.
National Safety Association. I don't know.
Sounds like it.
National Soccer Association.
Why? Oh yeah. I've been keeping up on FIFA.
All right, so that's the video. Feel free to check that out. That is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/OnTheMoveShow. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and comment below. All right, so let me give you my 2 cents on this here. As you all know, maybe you don't. Maybe some of you are new listeners, and then if you are, I will give you my take on the NSA. First of all, NSA stands for National Security Agency, and they have been in the news quite a bit. If you haven't heard about the NSA, I'm pretty shocked, honestly. Edward Snowden, that name ringing a bell, anybody? So I know you, my listeners out there, you all are very well informed and you don't have this problem. But this is something that is pretty shocking to me. Let me just say that Edward Snowden, he blew the whistle on what our government was doing. The bulk spying on American citizens with no warrant, nothing at all like that. And he did all this now at great risk to himself. He is now ostracized. I mean, he cannot come back to America without facing some serious jail time. Just look at what happened to Bradley Manning or Chelsea Manning, what he's going by now. This kind of thing. He did all of this. He made these sacrifices to get the conversation started, to have people know what's going on and talk about it. And it seems to me that it's not well known enough. I'm really just shocked right now that people don't know what the NSA is. I made some joking comments, when people didn't know what it was, like National Space Agency and National Soccer Association. But these people just went with it. They had no idea. And it really upsets me. I didn't have anybody fire back to any of the things that I said. And I only put a fraction of the stuff I said on the video. I didn't have anybody like fire back at me and say, "Oh no, that's not it. You're wrong. You're lying to me," or anything like that. And I was out there. I wanted to see how much stuff I could get away with these people and see how far I could push it. And nobody fired back. They either knew or they didn't know. And when I gave them the wrong answer, they just went with it. Yeah, that must be it. That sounds good. And part of this, the whole point of this is to expose the lack of knowledge that, these liberal cities like Portland, they have. The vast majority of these people, they don't follow politics. They are part of the uninformed masses that go out and vote for people like Barack Obama. This is how this president can get reelected because people aren't paying attention. Anyway, it really upsets me that nobody knows this, but yet they know all about twerking. They know all about what that is, but they don't follow what is really important. The mass surveillance on every American in the United States, every human communication is being data mined right now, stored into a Utah data mining center for later review. That, I think, is probably a little bit more important than knowing what twerking is. That's just me. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, who am I, right? Anyway, we're moving on. We're moving into the first segment of today's show. We call it This Day in History. If you want to give us a call and let us know your opinion on what we just spoke about, the phone number is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Anyway, here we go.
This Day in History.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Yesterday, what country can do for you.
Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall.
And the people who knock these buildings down.
A date which will live in infamy.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
According to Yahoo News, on this day in history, on July 27th in 1214, France prevailed in the Battle of Bouvines over the forces of the Holy Roman Empire and England. In 1789, President George Washington signed a measure establishing the Department of Foreign Affairs, forerunner of the Department of State. And I also would just like to point out that our founding fathers were also quoted. I can't remember if this was George Washington, but I think it actually was Thomas Jefferson. Maybe it was Franklin. I don't know. But anyway, one of our founders once said, beware of foreign entanglements. And, I think it's kind of funny that this actually was established, the Department of Foreign Affairs, but it has been really altered from the way that we originally had intended. Now we're, issuing out money to all these countries. Foreign aid is one of our highest expenditures, next to entitlements and unfunded liabilities, these kind of things. But I find it funny that even back in 1789 that we were establishing the Department of Foreign Affairs, and that it has changed, it's mutated, and it's kind of run amok, as most government programs do. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. In 1861, Union Major General George B. McClellan took command of the Army of the Potomac during the Civil War. In 1909, during the first official test of the U.S. Army's first airplane, Orville Wright flew himself and a passenger, which was Lieutenant Frank Lamb, above Fort Myer, Virginia, for 1 hour and 12 minutes. In 1912, Canadian researcher Frederick Banting and his assistant Charles Best succeeded in isolating the hormone insulin at the University of Toronto. That was a huge discovery there, a huge breakthrough in science. As you all know, insulin is used today to treat diabetics. In 1942, during World War II, the first battle of El Alamein in Egypt ended in a draw as Allied forces stalled the progress of Axis invaders. The Allies went on to a clear victory over the Axis in the Second Battle of Alamein later that year. In 1953, the Korean War armistice was signed at Panmunjom, ending 3 years of fighting. In 1960, Vice President Richard Nixon was nominated for president for the first ballot at the Republican National Convention in Chicago. In 1996, terror struck at Atlanta Olympics as a pipe bomb exploded at Centennial Olympic Park, directly killing one person and injuring 111 others. Anti-government extremist Eric Rudolph later pled guilty to the bombing. In 2004, Democrats assailed President George W. Bush's handling of the Iraq War at their convention in Boston and painted a vivid portrait of John Kerry as a decorated Vietnam War hero. In a keynote address, the Illinois State Senator Barack Obama, now our president, said Kerry had long made tough choices when easier ones were available. So, I just kind of want to briefly touch on this for a moment here. I like to kind of take apart some of the things these guys say. So let's talk about Kerry and these tough choices. Was one of these tough choices throwing his medals or ribbons over the fence at the U.S. Capitol in protest to the Vietnam War? Democrats, they do like to say that, you know, the reasons for their failures was because there was tough decisions, choices had to be made, and they never take responsibilities for their actions, their failed policies, their bad policies. None of these things they don't take any responsibility for. So, you know, and I also want to point out the fact that Hillary just wrote a book, Hillary Clinton, and it's called Hard Choices. You know, and by the way, this is the same title of the book by Jonathan Moore, which is titled Hard Choices, Moral Dilemmas, and Humanitarian Intervention. Here is the overview of that book. Since Somalia, the international community has found itself changing its view on humanitarian intervention. Operations designed to alleviate suffering and achieve peace sometimes produce damaging results. The United Nations, non-governmental organizations, military and civilian agencies alike find themselves in the midst of confusion and weakness when they seek and when they're seeking clarity and stability. So, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that this book, her book, Hillary's book, is titled the same thing as this. This is it seems to me it's like a UN propaganda book here. And, you know, I like to kind of link these things together. So, you know, Hillary's book, kind of the same name of a book that's UN propaganda, and it's talking about the hard choices that she had to make. And I haven't read the book, but from what I hear, the sales aren't doing very well. So it sounds like not very many of you are reading it either. Who really gives a crap what Hillary has to say? Anyway, I would just like to point out that this is a very typical thing that the Democrats do. You know, that they blame the situation. Oh, I mean, it was so hard. You know, we had to make a tough choice, and you know, then they won't take any responsibility for their actions. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to hear yours on it. Give us a call. The telephone number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. And at this point, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to have Stephen Nielson on the line, so don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. So, at this point, we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest of the show here. We have Stephen Nielson on the line, and we're going to be talking about his campaign and a bunch of other issues here. Hey, Stephen, you there?
Absolutely. How are you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for joining us, by the way. I'm really happy to have you back on the show.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be back. It's great. I'm kind of making the second round in a lot of shows that I've done in the past, and it's been great to see my campaign kind of come into its own, but also see some of the shows that libertarian-minded individuals had started out with several months ago really coming into their own as well. So congratulations on the success that you've been having with the show, and thanks for having me back again.
Oh, well, thank you. I really do appreciate that. And so tell me some stuff that you guys have been doing. What's been going on with your campaign?
Well, we are, a week and a half out from the August 5th primary. Since the last time I talked to you, we became an official campaign, went registered with the Secretary of State, had a Democrat also jump into the race. So it's a three-way race, and we're actually looking to survive the primary. The Democrat is a marijuana party Democrat, and just hasn't been performing well at all. And so we're actually looking to kind of capitalize on let's call it a little bit of libertarian propaganda, if you will. That look, you've got a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian, and look who's advancing through to the to the top two general. It's the Libertarian and the Republican. So we're making some great strides there, and run with the gas tax issue. It's actually been a talking point that we started in the state, and I've noticed a lot of other Libertarian candidates have picked up the talking point and the hard line on the gas tax increase. That's a bipartisan push from the incumbent, and several Republican supporters who are anti-incumbent over on the east side of the state have actually started a movement to use the message that began in my campaign to kind of oust some of their incumbents on the east side of the state. So it's amazing to see, like I said, our campaign has really come into its own. We really found our message that's going to drive us through to victory in November, and we're actually changing the debate in Washington State right now. We are leading the message, and it's nice to see some other campaigns on Republican side and Libertarian side kind of falling in line with us. It really gives us a lot of hope and encouragement that we're doing the right thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just want to point out the fact to everyone that Stephen is the only candidate that I have come out openly and endorsed right now. So I really, really like your message, Stephen. I think you're a good guy, and I think if anybody has a real shot at getting this, and I'm not belittling any of the other candidates out there. I really, really like a lot of the guys that are out there right now. For example, Chris Rockhold, Paul Addis, Dave Steenson. I really like all these guys, but I've only said so far you are the one that I have endorsed. So I really hope that things go well for you guys. I'm stoked to see that your campaign is doing so well, and I want to talk to you about some of these issues that you just mentioned here. Especially for the primaries. Can you explain for our listeners what exactly is involved in the primary process, and what are you trying to achieve here?
All right. So what we're trying to achieve is finishing in the top two. The way that Washington State works is for a primary, regardless of the number of candidates for any individual race, the top two vote getters are going to be the two who advance on to the general election. So in my instance, we've got a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian, or I should say Libertarian, and then, of course, Republican and Democrat in there as well. And so the top two vote getters from us three are going to be moving on. In Nick Kunkel up north in the Bellingham area, he's got two Republicans, a Democrat, and a Libertarian. Chris Rockhold has got, I believe, 4 people in his race as well. So there are a couple of more complicated challenges. But in any one of the races across the state, because this is a top two general election state, the primary is extremely important. And all we have to do is finish in the top two, and then it's a head-to-head race in the general election. And what the Libertarian Party has been focusing on and trying to capitalize on this year is to eliminate the stigma of the third party as being a spoiler party. Because if we can survive for the general election, if we can make it through the primary, there is no spoiler. It's a head-to-head. So,
absolutely, yeah. And as far as that, I really want to talk about that for a second. In the past, I have kind of looked at it the same way as far as, I don't want to vote for a Libertarian because I was concerned that it would take away, votes from the Republican Party and then only the Republican Party, and that would basically just make it so that we have another Democrat in office. And for me, I have changed. I've changed so much on this, just throughout this year, really. I've never been comfortable with who I voted for. I voted for so many different people. I voted for Democrats. I voted for Republicans, and I voted for Libertarians. And for me, I will no longer vote for somebody who I think is going to compromise and and they're just going to be rhinos in the office as far as these Republicans. I'm not the kind of guy that goes down the line and will vote for only Republicans. But I have in the past, like I said, voted for people because I was concerned that if I voted for a Libertarian, it would take away that Republican vote, and then we just have another Democrat in office. But now my opinion is that we have a choice between, you know, a big government, more entitlement candidate, and we have a choice between a crony capitalist candidate where they're going to make these backroom corporate deals and make it so these big corporations aren't paying taxes when they're producing and earning so much income. For me, this is not a choice. When I see that, that's no choice. And this is what Ronald Reagan said. You know, it's people can't see a difference between the parties. You know, we need a bold difference. Not pale pastel colors. You know, that we need somebody who is going to stand for something and have a clear difference in their message between the other candidates out there. And for me, the Libertarian Party is where it's at. Now you have some grassroots like Tea Party, people that I support, but there is a difference though in that, because these people, in some ways I disagree, especially on social issues. When you talk about, marijuana, and you talk about other kind of topics such as that, like gay marriage and such, I disagree with them on that. I'm a social liberal, basically a classic liberal. And, I want to talk with you a little bit about marijuana. We've had here in Washington some very, very big changes, and I'm sure you're aware of. We passed the recreational marijuana, and I wanted to hear what your thoughts on that was.
Excellent. I was at the Olympia Hemp Fest yesterday speaking to this issue, and the I-502, all that it did not legalize. And a lot of folks like to say, pot is legal in Washington State. Pot is not legal in Washington State. All the I-502 did is decriminalize a minuscule amount of marijuana or cannabis. And of course, there were some very strict specific applications to THC included products, food products, butters, things like that. But in Washington State, cannabis is still illegal. It's just been decriminalized. If you and the indicator is, look at the schedule. Look at the drug schedule. THC is still listed as a Schedule 1 drug, the same schedule, the same rating that the federal government has got it in, which is why you may even be a medical marijuana grower and you'll have your 15 plants and everything is being done in accordance with Washington state law. The federal government, the DEA, would come in and they'll shut you down. They'll arrest you. This is what happened to the Kettle Falls Five. They had like a county auditor come in and just kind of check out their plants. Everything was on the up and up. A week later, they had the DEA come in with the exact same county individual, and now they were under arrest because of federal violation. So until we enact real legalization, I'm afraid. I'm afraid for people in their confusion. You talk about people who are kind of uninformed, unaware, and they think, oh, we won with the I-502, but we really haven't done anything. It's baby steps at best. We need to focus on real legalization. And there's not one individual in Olympia, in the House or the Senate, who is really pushing for real legalization. I have yet to see one individual stand up. My opponent gets a lot of kudos from people who say, he's good enough. He's been helping out the medical marijuana family, and we're okay. We're good with him because he's close enough. And I like to say to him, when I'm at events like Olympia Hemp Fest, when is he speaking? Where's his booth at? He's not there because he really doesn't care. He doesn't care about the issue. He has no vested interest in liberty, in freedom, and in real legalization. That's what I'm about, because I understand the difference between the minuscule amount of decriminalization and real legalization.
So let's talk about marijuana in general here, and why exactly do you support it? Let me play devil's advocate here and say what the opponents of legalization of marijuana would say. It tears apart the fabric of our civilization here. We got people who are going to get addicted to this gateway drug, and then it's going to make more crime and things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
If you look at the history of cannabis as part of this war on drugs, it actually comes down to exactly what you were talking about with corporate cronyism. There was the hemp industry was directly challenging, I believe it was a plastic startup, Dow company, a Dow corporation, and if we could get the country, which was heavily dependent on hemp product at the time in the early 1900s, get them away from that, then they can become dependent on plastic-based products. So there was a lie that was told that really put this stigma out there, because now hemp, which is non-THC based, tie it in with cannabis and THC, tie it in with the drugs, demonize it, and guess what? You get this corporation who had their lobbies and so on and so forth now in power, and here we are 100 years later still believing the same lies. It's we're tearing at the moral fabric of America if we were to do this. If you want to talk about products that destroy families, let's talk about people who have real addiction with alcohol. My family struggled quite heavily, a lot of aunts, uncles, mothers, fathers with alcohol. The one exposure that we've had with marijuana in our family was when my mother, over 20 years ago, my stepmother, had ovarian and uterine cancer, and she was wasting away. She did not do so well with the cancer treatment. And my father said, "Why don't we try marijuana? It'll help you be able to hold down some food." And she fully recovered. She gained her body weight back, and now she's 20 plus years in remission. So I've seen the positive impact that cannabis use has had medically in my family directly. So I'm very passionate about it for that reason alone, that it saved the life of my mother.
So, okay, so you mentioned alcohol, and I just want to be clear. Are you saying that alcohol should be banned?
I'm not saying alcohol should be banned. I'm saying that everything in moderation. We're, as a free people, we have a responsibility to ourselves to take ownership of our own bodies. All right? If I want to have a cigarette, if I want to smoke a joint, if I want to go out and have a beer, I'm free to do that, so long as I'm responsible for my actions. And I'm not putting anybody else in harm's way. I shouldn't be smoking a Marlboro and blowing the smoke in the face of one of my small children, obviously. I'm a smarter person than that. But that doesn't mean that I can't go out to a bar, enjoy a few drinks with my wife, and, maybe step outside and have a cigarette. It doesn't make me a criminal. It doesn't make me an immoral individual. All right? And though there is a stigma that, smoking is bad, and they've got this, the truth hurts or whatever push, there's this control arm of the government, Republicans and Democrats both, that they, and we tried it before with prohibition on alcohol. No, we don't need the government controlling our lives or regulating our lives or telling us what we should or should not be doing. We need to be able to make those choices and take responsibility for the actions of our choices.
Well said, well said. So, I want to touch a little bit on the history of hemp. I was doing some reading a little while ago, and it was actually about what you were talking about as far as the crony capitalism. Hemp was a major production crop that we were doing here in America, and we had all these farmers that were in support of hemp and growing hemp and things like that. And then the textile industry, as you were saying, came in, and they actually changed the name, and they started referring to it as marijuana. And then all these farmers, they didn't know what marijuana was. They had no idea what that was talking about when they referred to it as marijuana. Slowly, people started to realize what they were talking about. But I think it's important to note that marijuana was banned very deceptively, and it was, in fact, crony capitalism. I mean, it was an attempt from the textile industry to basically, get people away from hemp to other products that were being incentivized from the government. So, for me, I totally agree with where you're coming from, and I definitely agree. Hey, if I want to make bad choices, if I want to go and do something that's going to risk my health, as long as I'm not affecting anyone else, that's up to me. I don't think that marijuana should be illegal any more than I think that alcohol should be illegal, or cigarettes should be illegal, or a big gulp Slurpee should be illegal, as former Mayor Michael Bloomberg in New York tried to do. So, all these things, it's part of that growing nanny state that we see. That they're trying to tell us what is best for us, that we can't make the best decisions for us, and that our poor decisions will tear apart the fabric of society. So I totally agree with where you're coming from, and you know, I couldn't say it better. By the way, to our listeners, I just want to point out, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Stephen, are you a rocket scientist? Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I have a bachelor's of science degree from the University of Washington in aeronautics and astronautics, which is rocket science.
That's awesome. So this is coming from a rocket scientist, everyone. It's not rocket science, all right? But you know, his word on this, I definitely agree with where you're coming from. You know, and I want to actually cover some of the other topics we just brought up here. You mentioned the gas tax and all the stuff that you guys are doing in regards to that. Can you give our listeners a little bit of insight as to what's going on with that?
Absolutely. Right now, there's a bipartisan push, and it's actually being kicked off by the Republican Party to pass what they're trying to refer to it as a transportation package. It's a gas tax hike, and they've said, well, it's going to be no more than 10 to 11 cents, 11.5 cents at best. That's the Republican version, and that's per gallon. So an additional 11.5 cents per gallon. The Democrats are saying we want at least 20 cents per gallon. And so as we're looking at the gas tax that we already have in Washington State, when we're pumping $3.90, you have to understand that without current gas taxes, we would be pumping about $3.50. All right, so the $3.90 that we're pumping now would actually be $3.50. If we were to implement an additional gas tax, we'd be looking at $4.10 or more for that same gas that really, after price of production and federal taxes, would be $3.50. So you're looking at almost $1 worth of total state tax per gallon on our fuel. This is a very, very dangerous situation to be in, because they're trying to say that if we don't do this, we're not going to get the highways, we're not going to get these projects finished. One of the big pushes from the News Tribune, which said that I'm living in a libertarian utopia if I think that we don't need a gas tax. Thank you very much for that confidence, News Tribune. But my opponent also heavily supports this gas tax because he wants his pork. He wants the 167 interchange finished. Now, this is a project that's been stalled for over 40 years. All right, and they're saying that the price tag is going to be in the ballpark of $1 billion. Now, I think that you can get it done for at least half of that. So we're looking at $500 million. So how do we come up with $500 million? There are 3 projects that I love to point out, because in those 3 projects alone, the waste, not the cost of the projects, but just the waste, equals $650 million. So almost 1.5 times the amount that it would take to fix the 167 interchange or to complete that 40-year-old project. The 520 bridge has got over $400 million of recorded waste. The Big Bertha boring tunnel project stall underneath downtown Seattle is upwards of $120 million and rising because of that damn stalled billion-dollar machine. And the Highway 16 interchange in Tacoma, just on the Tacoma side of the bridge, is about $120 million as well because of the mistakes that they've made. So those 3 projects, and trust me, there are more, is $650 million of waste alone. All we need out of our government is accountability. And the fact that I'm calling for no gas tax increase and instead for accountability and reform in Olympia, I've been told that I'm living in a libertarian utopia, because both of the major parties want to just throw more money at the incompetence and negligence that's coming out of Washington State Department of Transportation.
Absolutely, and you know, I just have to point out that I've seen firsthand a lot of the stuff that's going on down here. We have the bridge debacle that's going on, and we've had in Vancouver, we've had citizens that have voted against this bridge time and time again, and you know what, the people in charge, they are just like, oh, okay, you know what, we're going to ignore your votes and we're going to go through it anyway. And to me, this is crony capitalism at its best, and also this is government waste at its best, because like all government projects, they start out with one kind of budget and then it's suddenly, oh, we need this now, and we need this, and the costs just continue to go up. So whatever number they give you, expect it to at least double by the time it's finished. And, you know, I always like to go back to history, and you know, not too far ago, Ronald Reagan, again, I'm going back to Ronald Reagan, you know, he once said that government doesn't get the money that they need, they find uses for the money that they have. I think, correct, and I think you probably would agree with me on this, Stephen, that, you know, in terms of this, if we had a smaller budget, we would still get things done. We would just find more efficient ways to do it. What do you think?
No, you're absolutely right. The CRC project alone, I believe that the number was on order of $100 million, again, that they wasted for the surveys, the studies, the legal battles, for a project that never even broke ground, that nobody wanted. And the number, the dollar amount of waste on just getting up to something that never took off blows my mind. Not only that, but part of that was a $10 million museum that they were going to use to house any artifacts that they found while they were digging for that, for that bridge, right? So a $10 million museum to kind of, pay off whatever Indian tribes or historical societies. So you're talking, it's just waste and pork and earmarks, and it just makes me upset. It makes me mad. And you're talking about, what are we going to do with the money that we've got? Yeah, we've got more than enough money already. And not only am I saying no additional gas tax, but I'm going to be standing up when I win, and I'm going to say we need to cut money here. Well, I'm looking at another $250 million revenue cut in the state to eliminate non-reckless, non-violent traffic stops. So speeding 11 miles over on the interstate, when everyone else is driving 68 and you get tagged for 71 in a 60 zone, I want that to go away. I want to change the RCW, and if we can stop speed traps, that also takes about another $250 million away. And everyone says, well, how are you going to replace that money? We don't. We don't replace that money because the state doesn't need it. The state needs to prioritize their spending. They need to minimize their spending. They need to get back to the basics and do what the state government, the constitutional bounds of the state, are supposed to be doing. And the crap that we're spending money on and wasting money on is not the way that the state needs to be run. So I'm planning on going in there with a hatchet. I just want to tear through the RCWs and look for every source of additional income, revenue creating taxes and fees and fines. I just want to start hacking. And I want to make it as bloody as possible because this state needs somebody to really just go in and start cleaning house.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Hey, Stephen, we got to take a quick commercial break. Would you mind sticking with us for a little while longer?
No, I'm here as long as you want me.
All right. Thanks, man. All right. So, guys, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. I see we have some callers here. We're going to get to you guys in a second. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be taking your calls. So we'll be right back.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
right, we're back. And when we last left, we had Stephen Nielson, the Libertarian Party candidate running for District 2, I believe, Position 2. Let me double-check that here. Yes, District 2, Position 2. He's running for state representative. He's on the line. We're taking your listener calls and reading your emails, so feel free to join in on the conversation. If you want to do that, give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. We have Justin on the line. He would like to make a quick comment. Hey, what's on your mind, Justin?
Hey, how's it going? This is Justin from Los Angeles. I'm a fellow Libertarian. I just wanted to say that just keep on with your campaign, Steve. I know it's hard fighting with the big boys, but you're doing a good job, and you probably don't have the same funding. And you hit it on the head when you said everything in moderation. That's kind of how the Libertarian Party rolls.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your input. Hey, Stephen, you're on the line. You want to comment back?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Look, let me just say one thing. My campaign has raised over $3,200, and we are fighting, and we are actually on par, fairly even, with an individual who's raised over $120,000. And he spent right now about $35,000 in the last PDC report. So what he has spent is 10 times more than what I've even raised. And you want to know what? We're polling fairly evenly. So it's not about money. It's not about that corporate sponsorship that he has. It's about the message. It's about the truth. People are hungry for a change, and the Libertarian Party, a viable Libertarian Party, is giving them exactly what they're hungry for. So thank you very much for your call.
All right. So, and again, thanks for calling in, Justin. All right, Stephen, I want to talk a little bit more about your campaign specifically and some of the other obstacles you guys have been experiencing. I know from hearing some stories about Chris Rockhold that there has been some sign vandalism and things like that. Are you guys having anything like that on your end?
We absolutely are having that on our end. Our opponents have said, this is all part of the game, and it happens. We lose our small signs. We lose our big signs. There's been sign vandalism that's targeted specifically at the Libertarian Party, and a lot of folks have said, well, those Democrats are just a crafty bunch. Well, guess what? In our district, it's not the Democrats. Actually, the Republicans are attacking Libertarians quite hard, and down in Chris Rockhold's district as well, it's the Republicans who are attacking Libertarians. And I like to think of it this way. It doesn't make me upset. Yes, it does make me upset because we don't have a lot of money to throw at signage, and they are in violation of Washington state law. It is a Class 3 misdemeanor for them to steal, vandalize, destroy, or remove signs that are legally placed. We are currently considering legal action in the city of Yelm against my opponent's direct contacts, who are the ones who have been vandalizing our signs. And they've actually spray painted our signs and reposted them, and they're using them as billboards to post signs of notice of evacuation or eviction. So we know who is responsible and who's using these signs. And I believe that they're just testing the waters to see how serious we are. So we are strongly considering legal action against our opponents, specific to the the law that they're breaking. But it doesn't fully upset me because look, if we're not taking flak, that doesn't mean we're over our target. So the fact that we've got the bombs going off around us means we're hitting them right where we want to hit them.
Absolutely, yeah, and I just want to point out, I'm naming names today, so this kind of stuff is really frustrating to me. We're supposed to have an honest and an honest political process that has integrity, and we have people like Paul Harris, for example. I believe he's a Republican running out here in this district, and he's on record here, and I'm looking at some of the transcripts from the text messages that he sent to Chris Rockhold, where he's saying that he's taken down these signs. And I just want to point out that according to the state law out here, a person may not remove, deface, or lawfully place political advertising, including yard signs or billboards, without permission. Knocking over or stealing a sign are both considered third-degree misdemeanors and may carry up to 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine for each account. So this is serious. This isn't just somebody just knocking over a sign and being a jerk and nothing you can do about it. This is actually against the law. These people are violating the law.
Correct. And if the total amount of their destruction or defacement exceeds $250, it becomes a Class C felony. So this is this is taken very seriously in the state of Washington because that's our private property that they're destroying.
Exactly, and the Class C felony, that's punishable for up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. So, this is something that's going on. Paul Harris, right now, he's doing this to a Libertarian candidate, Chris Rockhold, down here in Vancouver, and honestly, it needs to stop. But we have a text message where he's saying he's admitted that he's done this. So, this to me is really frustrating. Something needs to happen about this. This guy is corrupt.
Exactly, Mack, and it's not it needs to be said because, like you said, you're naming names. My opponent's direct contacts, his direct inner circle of friends, are the ones who are posting these eviction notices on my spray painted signs. So we know that our Republican incumbent opponents are very intimately familiar with what's happening, and they shrug it off that it just happens. It doesn't just happen. Crime doesn't just happen and definitely shouldn't be shrugged off. This is our personal property, and they know that as small dollar campaigns that this is very painful to us. So what we have to do is we have to show them that we're serious. These are not, fringe Democrats or, upset Democrats. These are Republicans attacking Libertarians because of what the Libertarian movement and what we're doing in the state means to the GOP and the Republicans in this state and across the nation. Now, we actually have a lot of Democrats that have crossed over and a lot of independents, but what it means to the Republican Party is that we're kind of seeing their death throes. We are seeing the realization of the end of the Republican Party because there is no real leadership. There's no real message that's biting with anybody anymore. 53% of Americans don't self-identify with either one of the major parties. So if you cut that in half, I believe that about 21% of Americans identify, yes, I am an absolute Republican. That's not good for them. That's really not good. They see us as a direct threat to what they were supposed to be, the party of low taxation, small government, fiscal responsibility. They are no longer that party. The Libertarian Party is. That's why they do not want us to succeed.
Absolutely. Libertarian Party, you guys are the tip of the spear right now. You guys are the tip of the spear. This is what the Republican Party was supposed to be doing. The small government people, and when I spoke about before, as far as people not wanting to vote for the Libertarian Party because they're afraid it's going to take away a Republican vote. Well, let's turn that around. Voting for the Republican Party is taking away a libertarian vote. That this is the party of the most liberty people. It's been said, and this isn't my quote, but the libertarians think that gay couples should be able to protect their marijuana plants with firearms. It's a party that is right down the middle when it comes to liberty. Everybody gets their fair share. Everybody gets their fair shot, not fair share, but fair shot. And everybody is treated equally. This is the Declaration of Independence principle of all men are created equal. So I really am fascinated with the Libertarian Party. What's happening right now? It's an amazing time because I really think that now is the time that a leader can emerge. We have people that are just hungry for this kind of leadership. People that are just looking for something, those bold colors that we talked about, something that sets them apart. And for me, the Libertarian Party is the answer. And again, not all Libertarian candidates in regards to that, because you have to know the candidate. Some of them are just in there with the label and not necessarily even endorsed by the party. But a Libertarian candidate that is strong on constitutional principles, small government, equal rights, those kind of things, I will absolutely back one of those candidates. And I think that so many people right now are hungry for those kind of candidates. So, hey Steve,
correct.
We have
Mack, real fast on that message, there have been several Republicans who have called me and they said, I'm taking a chance on you. You had better stick to your principles. And I tell them, what else have I got? I am that candidate. I am going to do exactly what I say.
Absolutely. Hey, we have a caller here. We got James on the line. You want to make a few comments here, James? What's on your mind?
Oh, but of course. As Stephen's saying, I've met Stephen. This is James Apter,
7th Legislative District out in northeastern Washington. And I've gotten the same message from a lot of people in my district. They're sick and tired of the two-party system. They're sick and tired of the politics that gets nothing done.
Absolutely.
And
hey, James, are you running, or are you actually a representative?
No, I'm actually running.
Yes, sir. Okay. Wait, do you have any other comments or thoughts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The district I live, or the district that I have here, my district covers literally 5 counties. It's one of the largest in the state. So I've got a couple counties that are strictly Republican. And those folks have told me, we don't want you, we don't need you. We want a Republican in there because that Republican fits our ideals. And I said, well, that's fine. But when is the last time you actually had a Republican treat the size of government? And then they stop and they go, well, I don't know. I said, has our current representation done that? Well, yeah. I said, really? Well, have you heard of the Real Hope Act? And they asked, well, what is the Real Hope Act? I said, well, it's Washington State's version of the DREAM Act. And they said, well, no, we've never heard of that. And I said, I'm not surprised.
Huh. So James, are you running as a Libertarian then?
I am running as a Libertarian.
Yes, sir. And what was your district again?
7th Legislative District.
Yes, sir. Okay. So, and I definitely agree, James. It seems like that the party that is supposed to be, the Republican Party, that they're supposed to be the small government party. We hear this bashed over our head over and over again, and I continue to see the government grow with Republicans, and I think you're absolutely right. Stephen, did you have anything you want to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely, James. Thank you so much for calling in. James is one of our 12, our Pride of Lions. We've got 12 legislative candidates in the state of Washington that are pushing to make it through past the general election and really start making a change. I think James has a really good shot. He represents a portion of this group that is starting out. And James has done an amazing job. He wrote an amazing article that said, these are the mistakes that he's made. I made 10 mistakes and before I learned how to do it right. And he was talking about doorbelling and knocking on people's doors, getting signatures for his campaign. And it's great because we're not quitting. Some folks are new. Some folks have been around the block a few times. But James represents the future of what our candidates are. I believe that James has a great shot of being elected. And if not, James has taken a pledge to run at least 2 more times. He's not giving up. And not only that, but each one of the 12 candidates, we are pushing for them in 2015 to recruit 3 additional candidates for local races, for your water districts, fire districts, city councils, mayors, and then all of those candidates, 48 of us are going to go forward into 2016. We're going to recruit 3 more. So by the time you get to 2016, you're going to see this exponential growth of candidates. And James is just kind of the epitome of what that fierce passion is for the libertarian movement. We're not going away. We're not afraid to fail, because in our failure is success, because we learn what works, what doesn't work, and we're passing that knowledge on, and we're growing locally, and we are going to take this state back. There is a solid libertarian movement. So thank you, James, for what you're doing out there on the east side of the state.
No, thank you, Stephen. Jeez, I don't get to talk to you guys enough as it is.
Yeah.
But, I can tell you this, is that in my district, the lower part of the district, which is basically Spokane County, North Spokane County, Lower Stevens County, and some of Ponderay, they want something else. They want another choice. They want to be able to live free. They want to be able to express themselves and not be punished for it through taxation, through the IRS, through other governmental means. And I've been seeing that a lot. I've been seeing that more and more every single day. So,
exactly. The people are hungry for a change. Campaigns like mine over here on the west side of the state, campaigns like James's over on the east side of the state, we are hearing the same thing. People are tired of Patriot Act Republicans. People are tired of my opponent, which he calls himself a Puget Sound Republican, which means he's not a Republican. He's a rhino, and they flaunt it. We talked about the DREAM Act, the HOPE Act here. My opponent, J.T. Wilcox, voted for the Senate bill and the House bill version of the DREAM Act in Washington State. He voted for Obamacare exchanges. He voted for the expansion of Common Core. These are not Republican Party line votes. He is all over the place, and he is absolutely supporting Democrat values, big government, statist, authoritarian values. James is seeing it out on the east side of the state. The people are starting to see it. They just need to be told and reminded, hey, this guy that we're running against really isn't a Republican in what you believe Republicanism is supposed to be. You want a Republican to be a small government, minimum taxation kind of candidate. And the guys that are sitting there with R's by their names are not those people.
Absolutely.
The Republican Party voters need to wake up and see that the Libertarian Party represents that aspect, the small government fiscal responsibility aspect of what they want.
Hey, James, where can people go to read this article that you wrote?
It is
libertarianleadership.org.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome. And hey, James, do you have a website that people can go to get some more information about you?
I do. Most of my stuff is actually on Facebook, so it's actually Elect James Apker on Facebook. The website is electapker.com.
All right.
Anybody can email me, give me a call. If you want, I can give you my phone number. You call me day or night. I'll answer any question you want.
Yes, sir.
I'm not afraid of it.
Adker is spelled A-T-K-E-R. So is that right?
A-P-K-E-R, Alpha Papa Kilo Echo Romeo.
Oh, okay, Apker. Okay, sorry about that. For everybody who's listening, want to get some more information on him, feel free to check out his website and his Facebook as well. Thanks so much for calling in, James. At this point, we got to cut to one more commercial break, and we'll be back with more with Stephen Nielsen after this. Don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
I am Mack Worley III, and this is On the Move. We are in the second hour right now, and thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We have Stephen Nielsen on the line right now. He's a Libertarian Party candidate running in District 2 for Position 2 in Washington State. Stephen, are you there?
Absolutely.
All right. So if you could give our listeners a little bit of information about your website, social media, things like that, so that they can find some more information about you, how they can get involved in your campaign, and what specifically you would like them to do for the campaign if they're interested.
Great. My website is www.stephennielsen.com. That's STEVENNIELSON.com. From there, you can get a link to our Instagram, our Twitter feed, our Facebook page as well. We've been exploding since the voter pamphlets come out. We've had a lot of interest. What we need at this point, though, are small private donations. Like we had covered in the last segment, our signs are being defaced. It's about getting our name out there. It's about being able to print out our door hangers and get the big signs that get that name recognition, so that people can see, we know who this guy is. He's a legitimate candidate because we've seen his name every single day out on the side of the street, which is why the Republicans and some of our Democrat opponents have been destroying our signs. They don't want people to know who we are. So what I need people to do is go to my website, donate $1, donate $5, donate $500 if you can. If you live locally, sign up. Contact the campaign and help us go door to door. We've got to get at least 10,000 door hangers out. And we were trying to do that by the primary. We're going to push for at least 15 to 20,000 in the general, and if we can get that, we're going to look at a pretty good return on those numbers. So we need people who are willing to donate, at least 2 Saturdays, 4 hours apiece. And just go door to door, knock on the door, or you don't even need to knock in some cases. Just hang the door hanger on and try to get as many door hangers out there. So we need foot soldiers. We need a grassroots effort because we don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars that our opponents have. We're not running billboard campaigns or radio campaigns, on regular broadcasts. So we've got to do it at the grassroots level. So if you've got $5 to give, please go to my website. Please check out my Facebook page. Like us on Facebook. Share our internet memes. Share our statuses. And just get the message of liberty out, because this isn't just about Washington State. What we're doing in Washington State is really impacting and sending ripples across the rest of the nation, because we have a winning formula here in Washington State. Once we are elected, suppose that I'm elected, I'll be the highest level of elected official for the Libertarian in the entire nation. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. So we need to look at this as not just a local race for a small state house. If elected, and if I am the only one who happens to be successful in the state, and no other libertarians are elected in standard general election races across the rest of the nation, I will be the highest ranked elected libertarian in the entire nation. So I need support from everybody in the nation.
Absolutely. That's a big deal. Hey, we have a caller here that wants to make a comment about libertarianism versus republicanism. We got Thomas on the line. Hey, Thomas, you there?
Yes, Matt. Are you?
What's on your mind?
Hello. I live in Kentucky, and just recently we had a candidate election for the Republican Party. It was Mitch McConnell versus Matt Bevin, who was the Tea Party candidate, and he was the favorite. He was the one I voted for, and me versus people like my parents, they're mainly establishment Republicans. They voted for Mitch McConnell, and people like myself who are more libertarian and more, kind of a Tea Party backed candidate. We went for Matt Bevin because we just pretty much had enough of Mitch, and but unfortunately our efforts fell short, and Mitch McConnell got reelected, and now he's going up against Allison Grimes in the primary. So I talked to most of these, I guess you can say, these establishment Republicans that really just go for the bigger end. Like they voted for Mitch in the 2012. They voted for Mitt Romney, and it's like they go for the people that have the highest chance of winning, and the people that have the highest chance for winning are the people who are throwing all this money at radio and commercial ads, and Matt Bevin, the would-be candidate for the Senate, fell short of that because really we fell on deaf ears. A lot of Kentuckians here didn't even know who Matt Bevin was, let alone vote for him. So I guess what advice would you have for people like myself who are who are getting suffocated by these big establishment Republicans like Mitch McConnell, and we really want to just take back the Republican Party and bring it back to Reaganism, I guess you can say.
Well, thanks for your call, Thomas. Go ahead and take that, Stephen. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Thomas from Kentucky, man. Thank you so much for calling. That's an amazing question. I wrote an article a few months back called Republicanism versus Libertarianism, and I spent 17 really good years in the Republican Party, and I fought hard to change the Republican Party from the inside, and it just isn't going to happen for the exact same reason that you stated here, that the big establishment Republicans with the dollars and the cents and the backing and the these are the people who can win, that is going to trump every single time unless they make a major mistake. And in a lot of cases, they still make these mistakes. They get up and apologize, and everything's fine, and they get a book deal out of it, and they still get to keep their seats. Look, this is what we've got to focus on, is that in Washington State specifically, 30% of the state-level races for Senate and House are unopposed. So what can you do? Don't be afraid to run for office. You may lose. You may lose twice. You may lose 3 times. But no candidate, no elected official should get a free pass at re-election. That's the first thing that we have to do. People have to just suck it up and do it. You want to be on the front lines, start drawing fire. Stand up, run for office. That's the very first thing that you've got to do. The second thing that you've got to do with problems like Mitch McConnell, you can't let them get away with what it is that they're doing. Look at the people who are standing up and supporting them, all right? I'm talking specifically about Rand Paul. Rand Paul has got the ear of the Tea Party and the Change Republican Party movement, but where was he in being outspoken against Mitch McConnell? I believe he endorsed Mitch McConnell. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mack, but he endorsed him. So we cannot support individuals like Rand Paul as being good enough. We need to hold them responsible for the movement that we want, and we cannot back down. And so I'm sorry that happened out in Kentucky. Mitch McConnell does not deserve to hold his office, but we cannot quit. We have to hold him accountable. We have to hold the people who are backing him accountable, and we have to start the fire around him by holding every single incumbent accountable by making them run an election. I was told specifically when I got into this race by the Republican Party in my district that elections are not the time to have the discussions I want to have. No.
I think that's the best time to have these kind of discussions.
Yeah, elections are exactly the time to have these discussions. So we cannot back down.
Hey, Stephen, I want to actually play. I got a clip here of Rand Paul endorsing Mitch McConnell. You're absolutely right, but here's the audio on that. I'm going to go ahead and play it real quick for you.
Here now. Senator, how are you, sir?
I thought you were endorsing me, Glenn. That's why I said I'd come on your
Well, I thought you were. I thought you were going to announce that you're running for president in 2016.
Oh, I have to tell you what I'm running for before you endorse me. Yeah,
so,
you're
Senator,
playing hard to get this morning. I just don't think that's fair.
Can we start with the hardest question that I have for you, and it is this: why are you endorsing Mitch McConnell?
I'm here in Texas to endorse Don Huffines. We got our signals crossed here. Going back to Kentucky, because he asked me. He asked me when there was nobody else in the race, and I said yes. And
well, Al Gore has asked me to change my opinion on global warming, and I don't do that.
So hey, Stephen, I'm just curious. Have you tried asking Rand Paul for his endorsement? Because apparently all you have to do is ask, and he'll give it out.
No, man, that'd be like asking somebody if I can borrow their needle. I don't want what he's selling.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I actually had no idea that he endorsed McConnell, and I've already been on shaky ground with Rand Paul already, and this kind of just puts it over the top. I don't like this guy now. There's nothing that this guy can do that's gonna make up for this. Mitch McConnell is one of the worst of the rhinos here, and he's part of the problem. To endorse him, even if it's because there was nobody else in the race or because you thought it was the best thing for the party, that's just to me that is just wrong. Endorsing somebody just because that's what the party needs, I totally disagree with. Honestly, I'd rather see that seat go to a Democrat than somebody who's pretending to be a conservative or a constitutionalist, because at least we would know what we're dealing with, and we can get the next guy in office who will actually do what he says he's going to do. But
if Rand Paul was a man of principle and a man of character, he would have stood up and he would have said, I endorse nobody in this race.
Absolutely. That really bothers me. I have to thank you for showing me that. That's really incredible and unbelievable. So, Stephen, I want to give you a few more minutes here. Plug everything that's going on in your campaign. Why should people vote for you?
People should vote for me because I'm the best chance that we have in Washington State to stop the gas tax. Think about the gas tax and what it's going to mean for your commute, what it's going to mean for your kitchen table. Adding an additional 20 cents per gallon for commuters is taking food out of the mouths of their children. I've got 3 small children myself, and I look at this as a kitchen table issue because it is. We have to stop this bipartisan push. If we do not elect libertarians in the election this year, we are going to have a gas tax. The only chance of stopping this tax hike is electing libertarians like myself who will stop everything that happens in the state house so long as there's a possibility that this transportation package is still on the table. This transportation package has to die. The only people who are going to kill it are libertarians like myself. I need people to go to my website, StephenNielsen.com, and donate, support, get the word out from across the nation that this movement is happening in Washington State, and we need to succeed in Washington State. I'm running against one of the highest-ranking Republicans and definitely the most well-funded Republican. He's the highest-funded Republican in the entire state House, and he's the House Minority Floor Leader. And I am a working-class guy who's taken time out of his job because I care about my family, I care about my state, I care about my community, and I care about what these guys are doing, and I'm not going to let them get away with it anymore. We need libertarians in Washington State because it will flow over to Oregon, Idaho, Kentucky, Florida, California, and we will start seeing true reform and true accountability in this nation if we just have the backbone to stand up, unlike Rand Paul, unlike Rick Santorum, and say, we are liberty, we are freedom. These guys aren't getting it done. Libertarians like myself are doing it. I'm looking forward to great success in 2014 with the support of all your listeners and those who couldn't listen to us today because they are going to hear this. They're going to hear me every time that I speak. And win or lose in November, I'm not shutting up. I'm not going away because I cannot allow the gas tax to happen. As the secretary of the State Libertarian Party, I'm going to make it a key element through the next legislative session that we are going to be fighting the gas tax. And we are going to be training individuals to run in 2015 and 2016. So if you think that by my failure to succeed in this election means that I'm going away, it's not. By 2016, there are going to be 12 more of me, and I'm responsible for that. So please go to my website, www.StephenNielsen.com, and support liberty because freedom matters to me, to my country, to my state.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. And you know, I just have to tell you guys, I really, really like Stephen. Stephen, not only just as a candidate, but as a person, he's a really nice, personable guy, and he's on the front lines right now of liberty. Like you heard, he's not going anywhere. He will stick around. He's going to keep fighting. He's going to, keep being the tip of the spear as he's shown. So definitely get out and support his campaign. I endorse you, Stephen, and I am really happy to know you. So thanks again for coming on the show. We're going to have to cut out and go to another segment here, but I want to really just say thank you so much for joining us today.
Mac, thank you for having me on. Anytime you want me, just let me know.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, and I'm really looking forward to having you on when you win because I have confidence in you and your campaign. Your message is strong. And, like you say on your website, You're doing this because freedom matters. And you know, I have to stand next to you, man. Hey, keep doing your thing.
Thank you. You too. Keep up the fight, man.
All right, we'll do. All right, everybody, that was Stephen Nielson running for the Libertarian Party. He's running for District 2, Position 2, out here in Washington State. We're going to cut to a commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to start with the Mack attack, so don't go anywhere.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/OnTheMoveShow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
Hello, everybody. I am Mack Worley III. Thank you for tuning in today. This show is called On the Move. It's a show that attempts to inspire you to stand up for your rights. And we talk about all sorts of different things, liberty-oriented things. I'm really happy that we've had candidates such as Stephen Nielson on the show. I think he has a great message out there. I think you all should definitely look into him, especially if you're in his district. It's StephenNielson.com. That's STEVEN. Nielson, NIELSON.com. Check out his website. If you have any time, any money, anything that you can do to help turn that dial of liberty forward, please do so. Look up your local Libertarian candidates or your other candidates. If you're in an area that doesn't have a Libertarian candidate running, please look into that. Please find out if there's something that you can do to help a candidate of your choice, somebody that you back, and not just the fact that they're a Republican or they're a Democrat, but they actually stand for principles that you agree with and you support. Anyway, at this point, we're entering into the first segment of the show, and we like to call it the Mack Attack.
It's time for the Mack Attack!
All right, this is a segment of the show where I give you my take on outrageous events in the news. If you would like to join the conversation today, please give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com and give us your take on things. So today I want to talk about, I need to talk about what is going on in Gaza right now, the Gaza Strip. As I said before, we were going to be talking about this, and as you all may or may not know, I'm not sure if you're following the news, but if you're listening to the show, I would highly doubt that you're uninformed on this topic. So we all know that Israel has invaded the Gaza Strip. You know, they've been involved in heavy fighting with these Hamas fighters. And Hamas is, by the way, a known terrorist organization as designated by the United States. Hamas, they've been using public buildings such as schools, hospitals, and housing complexes as weapon depots. They've been using these locations to launch attacks against Israel, and when Israel responds with bombs of their own, Hamas is using their bodies of the innocent people that they hid behind as proof of Israel's villainy. You know, I just want to come out and say first and foremost that I stand with Israel. And I know some of you may disagree. Some of you may not like that. You know what? I can't help how I feel. This is how I feel. You know, if we're picking sides, I'm going to support our closest ally, which is Israel. And not just because they're our closest ally. But let's look at the people in these areas, okay? Let's look at their ideology and their forms of government. You know, Israel's ideology and their form of government is far, far closer than anyone else in that area. You know, Israel could at any point decide to just totally annihilate Hamas. I have to point out the fact that Israel has the third largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world. The only people that have more is the United States and Russia. They have a very impressive Air Force, and the Israeli Defense Force is highly trained and a very effective combat force. Israel has shown incredible restraint. They've been receiving mortar and rocket fire from the Gaza Strip nonstop, and they've limited their counterattacks for quite some time. What are they supposed to do? To people out there who are saying, you know, Israel doesn't have a right to do this, that Israel's evil, and all these things, what are they supposed to do? They are being shot at daily. No country in the world would show this kind of restraint. I have to point out that we, the United States, are the only country in the world to use nuclear technology against citizens of a foreign nation. Citizens. We nuked cities. We dropped 2 atomic bombs on cities. Israel has the right to defend themselves. Who are we to say that they can't when we specifically targeted weapons of mass destruction on cities? Obviously, we had our reasons. We wanted to put a stop to the war. And those deaths prevented countless other deaths from an ongoing war. And who knows what would have happened if you know, Hitler or Japan managed to get nuclear technology before us. Do you think that they would have shown that kind of restraint that Israel has shown? Absolutely not. So it seems like every year we hear something about a peace talk. There's always some kind of peace talk between the Palestinians and Israel, and yet they always fall apart. Why? Why do they always fall apart? If these people just want to live in peace and just want to live next to each other and don't want to have any kind of fights or conflict, why do these peace talks continue to fall apart? Well, number one, first and foremost, Hamas will never recognize Israel as a legitimate state. So how can you negotiate peace with somebody who refuses to recognize your legitimacy? Okay? How? How can you even start negotiations at this point? That would be the first point. Okay, you have to concede that we are legitimate. No, you can't do that. All right, the talk is over. That's it. Negotiations are done. This is why the peace talks will never work. Not to mention that Hamas's charter calls for the destruction of Israel. And not exactly in those words, but let's be precise. They're really calling for the extermination of all Jews, and that would have to include the Jewish state of Israel. Their charter, it says, and I'm reading here. This is a quote: "The day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind trees and stones, the stones and trees will say, 'O Muslim, O Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him.' Only the Garkad tree will not do that, because it is one of those trees that is of the Jews." You're trying to negotiate with these people. These are the people who are instigating. These are the people that are killing people. You can't negotiate with somebody that thinks even the trees and the stones are going to call out for you to come kill them. We cannot negotiate with these people. Israel can't negotiate with these people. And let me just point out that these are known terrorists. This is a known terrorist organization. The United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists. Oh, wait, never mind. I forgot we do. Never mind. We gave back the top 5 terrorist leaders for Bo Bergdahl, a deserter. You know, he's an alleged deserter of his post and possibly defected to join these terrorist organizations. But No, okay, all right. So we do negotiate with terrorism, but we aren't supposed to. We haven't been. You can't negotiate with ideologues. These people, their ideology is to kill Jews. They want to kill them. They are not happy until every single Jew hiding behind trees and stones is dead. How can the Jewish state of Israel negotiate with that? I challenge any of you to tell me how. Please, I would like to know, because I'm scratching my head how anyone can sit here and not support Israel, who has shown restraint after being bombarded daily with mortars and rockets. They are getting shot daily. They have bunkers and alarms that go off, and people have to run in and hide from the mortar attacks that are raining down upon them. But yet they still come to the negotiation table. They still try to work it out. And we have our president who's doing nothing but undermining them. You know, I am really just fascinated by the amount of restraint that Israel has done. No other country in the world would do this. If somebody was raining down mortar fire on American citizens in an American city, there's no way that we would not respond with a shock and awe tactic, bombard, totally level the whole freaking country that is doing it. The whole area would be just, rubble. You guys know that's true. And let's be clear, we have nuked other countries. How can anyone talk about Israel without mentioning the kind of restraint that they've done? Anyway, I have a clip here from the Israeli ambassador to the United States, and he's talking about the biased media coverage that CNN and other news organizations have been broadcasting about this conflict. Here's the clip.
They will call for a full report, Aaron.
Carl, thank you. And now, Israel's ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer. And Ambassador Dermer, thank you for being with us tonight. Obviously, this is what happened here is horrific, and we don't yet even know the scale of how many children may have died. Initial reports indicate that at least 16 are dead, and the initial reports that this attack had come from Israeli tanks. As you know, the Israeli military has said it may have come from Hamas and a rocket which misfired. Do you know at this point? Do you have any more certainty?
No, I don't know, but I do know who's responsible for it, and that's Hamas, because they're using schools as weapons depots, and I think it would be a disservice to your viewers for a reporter from Gaza not to mention that in the last week we had 2 different UNRWA schools where we had actually rockets found in the schools and handed over to Hamas. I also think it's a disservice.
These are 2 different UN schools, you're saying?
That's correct. That's publicly available information. It's kind of an important fact for your reporter to mention. And in addition to that, he may have wanted to mention a statement that was made not by the Israeli ambassador, not by the spokesman of the IDF, but by the UN Secretary General yesterday. And I want to read you what he said yesterday, not last year, yesterday. He said this: the Secretary General is alarmed to hear that rockets were placed in an UNRWA school in Gaza and that subsequently these have gone missing. He expresses his outrage and regret at the placing of weapons in a UN-administered school. By doing so, now listen, Aaron, exactly what he says. By doing so, those responsible are turning schools into potential military targets and endangering the lives of innocent children, UN employees working in such facilities, and anyone using the UN schools as shelter. This is yesterday. Do you not think that it's relevant to report on CNN that the Secretary General of the United Nations yesterday warned against the use of UN schools and shelter for rocket missile depots of Hamas?
And Ambassador, it is relevant. And let me ask you this because of what you said.
But Aaron, I've been listening for 2 hours of reports on CNN. I have seen split screens, horrible pictures that any decent human being would be horrified by. I have not heard a single person say what I just said to you now. And I think that does a disservice to your viewers to not give them the context they need to make these judgments. Hamas is placing missile batteries in schools, in hospitals, in mosques, and there must be outrage by the world at Hamas to end this.
But Ambassador, there is also this, which is, and this is the latest information we have, which is that Israel You did reach out to the UN 3 days ago. You told them to evacuate the school because of exactly what you just said.
That's right.
But here's my question, and the reason that we're showing these pictures, because these are dead children. Would Israel have taken the time to confirm that those children were out of the school before you fired? Send someone in to look? Or do you think it's okay that you issued the warning and then just went ahead and fired?
Well, I think, what more do these people want? And this clip isn't over. I'll play the rest of it in a second. But what more do these people want? Israel is being fired upon. These non-combatant targets, such as schools, hospitals, and things like that, they are being turned into military targets. And you heard it right there in the report he read. They are being turned into combatant targets. At that point, the military has every right to target it because they're being targeted from it. Look at the restraint that Israel showed. They sent out a warning that they were going to start bombing these locations if they would continue to receive fire from them, and they gave them several days to evacuate all innocent people out of the area. And now they want somebody to go in and check to make sure nobody's there. This is a building that's being used as a weapons depot. You can't just walk in and say, hey, any children in here? Nope, no children, we're good. If they could just walk in and do that, they wouldn't need to bomb the building now, would they?
I think what you just
problem.
I think you have no basis for making the statement that you just made. Of course we wouldn't fire directly, but I don't know what happened in that school. What I understand is we gave people days to get out of that area. This is in the northern Gaza Strip. There's a good chance that it may have been a Hamas rocket that hit it. I don't know if somebody fired, a Hamas fighter fired directly from that school at our military who's operating there, and then we responded to fire. I don't know the facts.
As the ambassador is talking, there's a split screen with wounded children in the hospital being treated, and it has a headline, 16 killed in strike on UN shelter in Gaza. This kind of media bias right now, and by the way, he's a small, tiny little thumbnail to the right of the screen, and the much, much larger, about 3 times larger than the ambassador who is talking right now, is the screen of these children being treated in Gaza. Now, this is the kind of bias that we're talking about. They're trying to totally discredit everything he's talking about. Don't listen to this guy. Look at the children.
I do know that there's children, and I don't blame the media. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming the media for showing the pictures. What I'm blaming the media is for not connecting the dots. The dots point to the responsibility of Hamas for using schools as weapons depots and caches for Hamas. It's unacceptable, and the outrage of the world has to be turned on Hamas. This is the Secretary General of the United Nations speaking yesterday warning that this could happen.
All right. Ambassador Dermer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is so frustrating to me. And I'm sure all of you can see it. If you can't, please give us a call. I'd like to hear your opinion on it. Why Israel is a bad guy in this. 619-924-0986. I promise I will let you get your 2 cents in. I will not cut you off. I will let you get your 2 cents in, but we will have a debate about this because I find it very hard to imagine that somebody can come up with a coherent argument as to why Israel is the bad guy here. Nations have the right to defend themselves. If Hamas wanted to end hostilities between them and Israel, the answer is quite simple. It's so simple. I mean, this is the easiest thing ever. Stop bombing Israel. You can't blame someone for retaliating on you when you bomb them. You clearly instigated the situation. But as I said, Hamas won't stop bombing Israel. They can't stop. They won't stop. They can't stop. It's part of the Hamas charter. They have to destroy Israel and kill the Jewish people. This is the document that this known terrorist organization was founded on. There will never be peace as long as Hamas is allowed to exist. Hamas will never be able to live peacefully next to Israel. And I don't blame Israel for bombing Gaza and reacting the way that they are right now. I stand with Israel, and I'm hoping that you do too. Give us a call, 619-924-0986, or you can email us at talk@OnTheMoveShow and give us your take on it. We're going to go ahead and cut to another commercial break, and when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about Putin's shadow war that he's conducting in the Ukraine right now. We're going to try to get to the D.C. Circuit federal ruling that was on the right to keep and bear arms in our nation's capital. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Support On The Move. Help us make this podcast bigger and better. You can do this by going to our store and purchasing one of our hundreds of products. All designs are original and made for patriots like you. Just go to cafepress.com/onthemoveshow. We appreciate your support. Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign.
Broadcasting from deep within occupied territory on the far left coast. You're listening to On the Move with Mack Worley III. Stand up, speak out, and get on the move. And now your host, Mack Worley III.
All right, we're back. I'm Mack Worley III, and this is On The Move. Thanks for joining us again here, guys. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the situation in Ukraine. And I know I have discussed this before, but we're going to talk about it again. So Putin right now, President Putin, the president or premier of Russia, he is conducting a shadow war. And let me explain for those of you who may be unfamiliar with what is going on there. He is saying that he needs to protect the Russian citizens that are in eastern Ukraine. And his proof of this is that, there's all these citizens who have passports for Russia. Well, he's been issuing Ukrainian citizens Russian passports. And now there's pro-Russian separatists that are inside Ukraine, and they are a militant group. And Putin would like us to believe that this is just some random group that just popped up. It's citizens in Ukraine, Russian citizens that are fighting for the liberty of these Ukrainian Russian citizens. And this is why Russia has to get involved militarily. They have to do these things. They have to prevent the Ukrainian government from suppressing this movement, this political movement that's going on inside the country. But he's issuing these passports, these Russian passports, at breakneck speeds, creating even more Russian citizens, even more justification for him to get involved. So I've been thinking, and I've been asked before, what would I do in Russia, or I'm sorry, in Ukraine? What would I do? And some of you may not appreciate my opinion. This is where the difference between libertarian and conservative libertarian, which is what I claim to be. I am a conservative libertarian. This is where I differ from the Libertarian Party, and I don't know all Libertarian candidates. I don't know what they think. But I know the principle of anti-war is very strong within the Libertarian Party. This is where I differ, and some war is justifiable, and I'm not calling for a war with Russia. Absolutely not. That's not what I want. But I think right now, as I've said, we are craving strong leadership. Bold colors, somebody who's not going to put up with this kind of crap. So what would I do? Like I said, I would do some kind of bold action to defuse the situation in Ukraine. But first, we need to ask ourselves, do we care? I know what I would do, but should we do what I would do? Do we care to honor our treaties and agreements? The Budapest Agreement that we made with Ukraine said that, hey, you know what? We'll protect you. You can give up your weapons, and we'll protect you. And Russia signed on to this. All of these countries surrounding signed on and said, you don't need these weapons of mass destruction. We'll protect you. So, don't worry about it. You have us having your back. We got your six. So they signed the agreement. They gave up their weapons of mass destruction, and now Russia is invading. I mean, they're doing it under the guise of this pro-separatist movement. In my opinion, this is full of special forces Spetsnaz, and Russia is supplying them with arms. I mean, it's obvious after the shoot down of the plane that happened, when this plane was traveling at 33,000 feet, and there is no way that the man-portable rockets that they have, they're shoulder-fired rockets that this pro-separatist group has available to them, there's no way that they could have shot down a plane at 33,000 feet. Those man pads, is what those rockets are called, is that they're only able to shoot down up to 11,500 feet. So 33,000 feet, there's a big gap there, big dramatic gap. So where'd they get the weapons from? Russia. Russia is supplying these people with both men and arms, and they are involved. They are conducting a shadow war. So do we care if Russia systematically starts absorbing its surrounding countries that can't compete against it militarily? You know, do we care that Putin's trying to put the old band back together? He's trying to, basically reinstitute the old Soviet Republic, and who knows where he'll go from there. Do we care if this emboldens other countries like China, Iran, North Korea to do this very same thing? If it were up to me, I would honor the Budapest Agreement. I would send troops into Ukraine after getting approval from Congress. I would annihilate these pro-Russian separatists. I would secure the eastern Ukraine border. I would help the Ukrainian people. But that's just me. That's what I would do. I would stand at the border, and if Putin wanted a war, I'd meet him right there. My guess is that Putin would back off and avoid instigating a direct conflict, but if not, he would be the aggressor. We're not invading Russian territory. Again, this is all just my opinion. I know this is very bold, and some of you may be surprised with where I stand on this. I'm not in favor of a war with Russia. I don't think that it is it's a real option. Nobody wants it. It's a lose-lose. But we are currently in a lose-lose situation. We either get involved or we stay out of it. And if it were me, I would only do this if I had the backing of the American people. I would let them know my case, and I would ask them what they wanted to do. I don't think right now that the American people want to be involved in this kind of conflict. I don't think that it would be something that would be supported. But I think that the case needs to be made, and I think that people need to have this conversation. And I think if people were made to understand why this is an issue and why we need to nip it in the butt right now, I think that people would come around to it. Again, this is not a direct conflict against Russia. This is against the insurgency in Ukraine. These Russian separatists that are downing civilian planes, commercial airliners. This is not just a threat to the government of Ukraine. This is a threat to the world. Anyone flying over Ukraine could be shot down. Anybody that's around the surrounding areas could be assimilated by this group, could be absorbed by this conflict, and eventually killed. We already know that Americans died on this airliner, and we need to protect our citizens. Russia claims that they need to protect their citizens. Well, we need to protect ours. And I think that we have every right to go in there and help Ukraine secure the situation, remove these Russian separatists from the territory, and then at that point, if Putin wants to actually have a out in the open conflict with the United States, then he'd be the one to instigate it. We'd have everything out in the open, standing there at the border, waiting for him to do something. If he decides to do it, then that would be on him. And the international community would respond to that as well. How would they respond? I don't know, but at least everyone would see it. These are my opinions. Again, a lot of you may not support it. I am not a fan of war, and I really, really had to search my soul on this one. I had to think about it long and hard because I don't want to see us involved in another conflict. We've just gotten out of Iraq, which, by the way, I think we probably shouldn't have gotten out how we did, as fast as we did. We can see that the territory is now in turmoil. All the blood, sweat, and treasure that we have expended to secure this territory and set up this government in Iraq is now falling back into terrorist hands. It's all for naught. So, though I do not want us to be involved in another war, I think if war is coming, I'd rather do it this way. If we don't stop it now, what will happen? North Korea, Iran, China, they're paying attention to this situation. They're looking to see what we're doing, and they're trying to find out if they can get away with this. It's only a matter of time. If we do nothing and this is allowed to continue, that this happens again, and it happens from these countries. China's already trying to go after Taiwan. They've been in land disputes with Taiwan for quite some time, and Japan as well. Japan is one of our closest allies, and this situation with Ukraine, these are our allies. I mean, we have an agreement to protect them, the Budapest Agreement. Do we not care about our agreements, our treaties anymore? Do these things not matter? If they don't, then let's discuss that. Let's have that conversation. But we cannot continue to allow this kind of encroachment upon our allies and members of the world, other countries out there. We cannot allow this kind of encroachment to continue while we have treaties going. If you want to remove the treaties, if you want to get rid of our involvement and renege on them, then that's a conversation that we need to have. But I say we honor our treaties. That's just me. It's my opinion, and I would like to hear what you have to say about it. Give us a call. The number to the show is 619-924-0986. Again, that's 619-924-0986. Or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. So I want to talk about this D.C. ruling that just went down. A federal judge in the District of Columbia on Saturday overturned the city's total ban on residents being allowed to carry firearms outside their home in a landmark decision for gun rights activists. Judge Frederick Scullin, Jr., wrote in his ruling in Palmer v. District of Columbia that the right to keep and bear arms extends outside the home. Therefore, gun control laws in the nation's capital are unconstitutional. We won, Alan Gura, the lead attorney for the Second Amendment Foundation, told Fox News in a phone interview, "I'm very pleased with the decision that the city can't forbid the exercise of a fundamental constitutional right." Gura said he expects the district to appeal this decision, but added, "We'll be happy to keep the fight going." So this, to me, is very, very exciting. This is a huge, huge win for gun rights in our nation's capital. This is a big deal. D.C. has been a de facto gun-free zone, and it is about time that this unconstitutional gun control that's happening within this district is challenged and overturned. Of course, the gun grabbers aren't going to give up. Of course, they're going to continue this unconstitutional warfare that they're conducting on the citizens of this nation. But this is a victory. We need to relish in what we have right now, everyone. If you celebrate, if you want to celebrate, throw a party, get a cook-off going, drink a beer, whatever you do, celebrate. I think it's time that we with all the stuff in the news, all the bad things in the news, it's really important that we take this victory and we really just cherish it, because who knows what's going to happen in a year? Who knows what's going to happen in 2 years? But right now we won. And this inspires me to keep fighting. I mean, this kind of stuff, we can do it. We can do it. We can overcome. This is the next civil rights debate. This is the next civil rights revolution in our country. Gun owners, you are the next civil rights fighters. We're in it right now. And as I've said before, I'm dug in my foxhole. I'm not going to quit fighting. I'm going to keep up my end of the fight, and I hope that you guys do the same. Anyway, we are moving on, and if you would like to join the conversation, we got a few minutes of the show left. I'll go ahead and have you on, 619-924-0986. And at this point, I want to enter into the next segment, and we like to call it the Listener Challenge.
I challenge you to a duel. Did you hear that? Sounds like it's time for a challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge. Listener challenge.
All right, this is a segment of the show where I challenge you to get out, get active, get on the move. So MacPack, listen up. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to research your local Libertarian Party. If you're anything like me and you're getting fed up with the Republican establishment, it seems like we have a a choice nowadays between the big government candidate and the corporate crony candidate. You know, the ones that's giving these backdoor deals. That's the Republican Party nowadays, it seems like, anyway. And if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling like you can't tell the difference between the parties anymore, you're not alone. Might I recommend the Libertarian Party? They are the party of liberty. And like I said before, they're the tip of the spear. They're the front lines in the war for liberty. So I challenge you this week, look into your local party. Find out what they stand for, if they have any candidates. Find out if you can support them, what you can do, things that you can do to get involved in their campaign. Can you support them monetarily? Can you give them any donations? Is there something that you can do? Maybe you possess a special skill that can help the party. Or maybe you can just help spread the message of liberty by sharing their information with your friends and family, talking with your coworkers about the party and some of the things that they want to do. Whatever you can do, I challenge you to get out there and do it. So that's this week's challenge. Stand up, speak out, get on the move. Our next segment of the show we like to call the Weekly Defender, and here we go.
And now it's time for the Weekly Defender. You have the right to defend your life, the right to defend your family, and the right to defend your freedom.
All right, this is the Weekly Defender. This is a segment where we report about armed citizens in the news who have used their firearms to defend their family, their property, and themselves. Our first Weekly Defender we found on My Fox Orlando in Orlando, Florida. 64-year-old Donald Sacco was waiting at a bus stop in Orlando, Florida, when a man armed with a knife approached, attempted to steal Sacco's property, and began stabbing him. A passerby in a vehicle spotted the attack, retrieved a gun, and rushed to Sacco's aid. The armed citizen ordered the criminal to halt his attack and held him at gunpoint until police could arrive, which I'm sure was probably 30 minutes, an hour away, something like that. Because that seems to be the case nowadays anyway. A former paramedic was also on scene and rushed to help Sacco, who is reported in stable condition. That's amazing. Local media are referring to the passersby as Good Samaritans. And this was on the 16th of July this year. So this just happened the other day. So very amazing story that people would rush to the defense of a citizen. Very, very amazing. Our next Weekly Defender we found on the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Victoria Davison had just parked her car in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when a pair of criminals approached and ordered her to hand over the car keys. Then one man said, "Go get the cannon," which prompted Davison to act. Fearing for her life, Davison, a right-to-carry permit holder, retrieved a gun and fired at the criminal, striking one of the robbers. Police eventually captured both of the criminals, whom they believe are linked to other crimes in the area, and this was on the 12th of July. You have a right to defend your life. You have a right to defend your family, and most importantly, you have a right to defend your freedom. We at On The Move, we support your rights, and if you have a story about how you lawfully defended yourself or you would like to comment on one of these stories, we would love to hear from you. Give us a call on the next show, 619-924-0986, or you can email the show at talk@onthemoveshow.com. So with that said, there's a few other things that I want to talk about. We have just a few seconds here left in the program, but I really want to talk about this sheriff candidate race here that's going out here in Clark County. I will get into on the next show why, but I recommend that you all do not vote. I repeat, do not vote for Sheriff Adkins. He is weak on gun control issues. He said he cannot imagine a scenario where he would confiscate any firearms in his county. So I think that's a very weak statement. I think that's a dodge. He did not come out and say, no, he would never do it. He said he can't imagine it, which leaves the door open for gun control or mass confiscation. I don't support Atkins. Candidate Sheriff Atkins, do not vote for him. Vote for anyone else. I'm not endorsing this particular candidate, but I will say do not vote for Atkins. Anyway, that's today's show. I want to thank you, our listeners, and members of the Mack Pack for tuning in week after week. You guys are the reason why we keep this program going, so thank you so much for your support. I also want to thank our special guest, Libertarian Party candidate Stephen Nielson. He's running for District 2, Position 2. Please support him. Check out his website, StephenNielsen.com. And you can get more information about our show at OnTheMoveShow.com, here at blogtalkradio.com/OnTheMoveShow, Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow, and Twitter.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.